Hello everyone, this is The King's Voice, and this is 3 stories from r/AlienEncounters. Please enjoy. A Wednesday Night I'll Never Forget, submitted by Carrie Mary. I will never forget. Summer before 7th grade, sometime in July, Wednesday night, early Thursday morning. The evening before, my family had just watched the old school show Unsolved Mysteries. I awoke in the night, lying on my side, awake but my eyes still shut, completely silent. None of us ran fans back then to aid our sleep, yet I was awake, and basically waiting to fall back to sleep again. However, I decided to open my eyes. On the right side of my bed, right there, was a being, seemingly fixated on a plush bear that I kept with me. And this being fit all of the descriptions I had always heard about or watched on television. Shorter, pale, gray skin, and those awful eyes. Huge, black, slanted, staring at my bear, right by my bed. Honestly, I cannot put into words how I had felt right then at that very moment. I was only just about 12 at the time, and at some point I had pulled my covers over my head and felt an awful rushing through my body. A feeling of super warm, then cool, then warm again. Only later in my life did I understand that I was most likely feeling shock. I couldn't scream. I had felt frozen. Too scared to scream, maybe? What if I did scream? My mother and stepfather and 2 brothers would hear me, but what exactly would they do? What would they do if they had come running into my room and saw this thing? What would it do? Is it going to kill me? Abduct me? What if it already had and they were just returning me? All of these thoughts, plus a million more, raced through my young mind. Just awful recounting it all. Writing this story here, again. How could I ever forget something so traumatic? Being such a brave 11-year-old, and after what it felt like 12 hours, I decided to try and scare it. I decided I would thrash my legs up and down from under my covers as hard as I could. I know, horrifying. I was so petrified, though. So I did this. I then remained under my covers just waiting and waiting. Nothing happened. So I stayed there. This had to be at least close to going on 2 hours from when I had first opened my eyes. As I lie wide awake, I heard a noise. To this day, I still cannot explain what exactly the sound was. The sound felt as if it had surrounded me and was coming from the outside. It was crisp, clean sounding. Maybe mechanical, but yet maybe not. It only lasted about 2 seconds. A sound that I definitely had never heard before and would never hear again. As soon as I heard the sound, something in my mind told me, they're gone. And as crazy as it sounds, I firmly believe that the sound was their transportation leaving. Needless to say, I did not sleep the rest of the night, or that morning. It took me so long to confide in my family about this terribly horrific incident. Of course, they did not believe me. However, now, from time to time, my mother will mention it and suggest that maybe that's why I suffer from insomnia to this very day. It very well could be. This is my first post here on Reddit, and feel free to share any thoughts. Thank you. I hope I fell asleep at the wheel and dreamed this. I hope. Submitted by Serenity Shear. This happened a few months ago. So I work as a nurse and started a new job 45 minutes away at a nursing home that pays well and has the shift that I want. The shift I normally work is weekend doubles, evenings and overnights, 16-hour shifts a day. But they needed me to work morning and evening this particular weekend, and I agreed. Switching my sleeping schedule, the night shift nurse who came to relieve me was late Sunday night. I was behind on charting anyway, so I didn't get upset. I was giving a report and heard yelling. Resident on the floor. He was with it, and he had said he had fell. He was wearing warm socks that are not non-slip, and it had sent him to the ER. More charting, state reportable if broken. I got out of work between 1 and 2 a.m., close to a 20-hour shift after a 17-hour shift the day before. I was dead on my feet, but I felt well enough to drive. My car is very tiny and I cannot sleep in it. However, on the way home, my friend wouldn't answer the phone. The way I go home has a lot of twists and turns. I travel around the lake, and I do love water, so watching the waves as I drive helps me stay awake. I realize at about this time that I am not wearing my glasses, but I am too lazy to turn around and go get them. I only wear them to work and to drive, but take them off to chart. I forget them a lot. I go past a small town, twists, turns, and woods. I listen to my book to keep me awake. About halfway home, at the next turn, there is a bright light, like a spotlight, coming through the woods. I continue on a little bit further, still in the wooded area, and towards where the bright light is coming from. As I come around a bend in the road once more, on the side of the road, where the night before I had hit a deer, was looked to be a very thin man. Skin tight, black clothes, kneeling over the deer that is still there, his back towards me. I thought he looked weird, but my glasses were gone and my eyes are starting to blur, and the spot that the light was coming from was pointed towards the man. I remember thinking about the light and thinking, how did they get their vehicles in the woods? But again, I was dead tired. I tried to pause my book, and my car is slowed down nearly to a stop. The man starts to move from the deer. I roll down the window and ask, "Is everything okay? Need any help?" Not really looking at him. I thought maybe it was a different deer. Maybe he had hit it. I'm about 15 to 20 or so feet in front of them, and my car is stopped at this point, and I'm still trying to get my book to stop. My touchscreen radio isn't working well, so I pick up my phone and I stop the book by hitting the dash hard, and I realize that he or she is not human. I freeze. It has stood up and it has faced me. The head is huge, like they describe aliens to be, with their enormous eyes, except it is tall. Not a tiny thing like they show you on TV. And it starts to walk towards my car. I can't breathe. I can't move. I felt like I couldn't even think. Everything just felt like it had froze. I heard a voice, not mine, that sounded like it was only in my head. And it was saying, "Sleep. Sleep." I blink, and it is all gone. The deer, the man, the thing. I look at my clock, and it's 4 a.m. My car is in park and I'm pulled over with no memory of doing so. My window is still down and I look at my phone, which is still in my hand, and I open it and my book is still stopped on the same place. I try to call my sister, but she wouldn't answer, so I called my job and they answered. I just ask about my glasses and the residence, and I eventually tell her I fell asleep and wanted to talk to someone so it doesn't happen again, and everyone is asleep. She stayed on the phone till I got home, and I don't think I fell asleep at the wheel, but I pretend I did so I wouldn't go insane, and I haven't told anyone this, and it scares me just thinking about it. If I did fall asleep, I could have hurt someone. But if I didn't, then what? Maybe I had worked super late and after a long shift pulled over to the side of the road and put my book on pause and fell asleep with the window down, or that I saw an alien and asked if he had needed help and they knocked me out and stole a deer. Huh. Right. This next story is I think gray aliens are studying me and my husband by Icy Cinnamon Roll. This is my first post on Reddit, so forgive me if I ramble on about this. I'll try my hardest to keep it short. I have only two people in the story, my mom, who thinks I have demons after me, and my best friend, who I think believes me. I've never had encounters with any aliens that I know of before 2015, when I was 22 that year. I moved in with my then boyfriend and now husband in his home in a small rural town near Atlanta, Georgia. The property we live in is about 12 acres of woods and a large field with an abandoned cemetery. On top of a hill to the east that belonged to a church that burned down in the late 1800s. So obviously most would find it pretty haunted. We both had paranormal experiences in our lives, but not anything like this. The first time we encountered what we think was a gray was one night in 2015. Jupiter was visible to the naked eye. We're both astronomy nerds, so we were both very excited and completely in awe when we went out to the field to observe it. After a couple of minutes of stargazing, we decided what we wanted to take was a nightly stroll through the woods. We ended up going pretty deep in the woods, and I approached a small clearing where we could see the stars. I was staring up at the sky when I started to hear a low, buzzing noise, and suddenly felt just extremely uncomfortable. I was about to turn to my husband and ask if he had heard the noise too when he had gasped. He grabbed my arm and started running with me back to the house. Once we got in, he had told me what he had saw was a long, white face with large black eyes. It had appeared behind my shoulder, staring at both me and him. At the time, we assumed it was a ghost or something like that. But fast forward to 2 years later, we were hanging out in our room at night, talking about our dark days at work, and I had just happened to turn around and look out the screen door when I saw what looked like a tiny gray alien peeping in at us, almost like a curious child. It looked to be about 3 feet tall, and the moment I saw it, it quickly ducked down behind a large flower pot that was beside it. I ran out, and there was not much to see. I don't know what the hell it was, but it was gone. My husband didn't see it, so I explained to him what it looked like. It was large, white face, huge black eyes, and a tiny, skinny body. He was both freaked out and intrigued, remembering what he had saw in the woods 2 years prior. We started looking into gray aliens after that, and the last time there was a sighting here was 2 years ago, 2018. This one happened to be my husband. It was dark and stormy afternoon, and he was walking down the hallway to the bathroom. And there's a guest room right across from where the bathroom is, and we always left the door open. He had glanced in there and did a double take. What he saw was something standing between the bed and the window. He said he believed it 100% that it was a gray, but a different one than the one I had saw. He said this one was tall, skinny, staring at him with its long arms outstretched. He only saw it for about 3 seconds before it ducked down behind the bed. He went to investigate, but it was not there. We haven't had any more encounters like that since, but sometimes we see bright blue or red lights floating around the field. Sometimes he wakes up in the middle of the night and sees something short standing next to the bed, but only for a couple of seconds. We both have incredibly vivid, sometimes lucid dreams, but I'm the only one that sometimes has sleep paralysis, and I don't know if it has anything to do with the grays, but it started getting more intense and more frequent after the sightings. We have no idea what they could want with us, so we've come to the assumption that they are studying us. Why would they be studying us? We don't know. We haven't been abducted yet, thankfully. Thank you for listening to today's videos. If you would enjoy the video, please leave a like or a comment. Hit the subscribe if you'd like to hear more. And I'd like to come out with one around every Sunday. And this has been The King's Voice.